control the sheep, and I'm gonna grab right in front of his back leg and kind of hip up, and now he's sitting. So the advantage of this is that these aren't on the ground, so he can't resist me if these aren't touching the floor. And you'll see shearers do this all the time. They'll hold them just like this. Just keep those feet off the floor. So I'm gonna lay him down on his side. Push his head all the way back. So see how he's pretty chill. He's not fighting. He'll start a little bit, and I'm not pushing weight on him with my knee. That's more just kind of telling me where. 1, 2, his horns are a little bit in the way, but it's okay because we got a sharp knife. And I'm gonna look for 2 streams. And then why don't you come over here, Matt? And then I'll try to aim it right into that bucket. 2 streams. And try to keep it stirring in there. Nice. That's great. Perfect. And if you want to see le anus, the anus, all the way down the center, all the way to the kill cut. And then one that goes from this foot on the inside, around the brisket, all along here, and then out to that foot. So those are the 3 main zippers. There, and then in between the front legs. And from those spots, we're gonna peel the hide away, if that makes sense. And to do that, what the zippers are gonna look like, they're actually gonna be strips. Let's see, I'm gonna try to do an off leg. I'm right-handed. It'll look like this. This is what a zipper will look like. This is also how we're gonna get it ready to hang it. You can see this is the Achilles tendon. I'm gonna poke my knife right in between the leg bone and the Achilles tendon, like that. And then I'm gonna pinch, and this is the beginning of the pinching and the zipper making. I'm gonna pinch that opening and draw my knife across it. And you can see now I've got a strip here, and I'm gonna go like this and hold the strip back across my knife as I draw the knife like this, all the way out to basically the foot, and then we'll put it right there. So that's what a strip looks like. When I say zipper, it's actually a strip like that. And that's what it's gonna look like, you know, for this big central one and then the one in the front legs. So we gotta do that on both back legs here. Same on that. You poke it through right inside the Achilles, pull it up, and then you make a nice long strip. These are little dew claws, these guys right here. We're basically just gonna be right up against those. And all I'm doing is severing the hide. There we go. See how the hide is separated from that top part? And it's a little awkward, but I'm gonna pull a corner, and I'm just loosening it enough so that I can grab this dirty part. You know, I'm gonna try not to touch this stuff. Just grab the dirty part, and now I've got a little flap. And I can grab that and push down, pull down. And we'll pull way down until you can see a hole that we can put our hook in, just under the Achilles. So grabbing this and pulling down. Ligaments that are holding bone to bone. If you ever find yourself using any pressure, like bearing down on it, you're not getting anywhere. You're just pushing on bone. So it's all about accuracy. It's all about finding the thing you can cut that is softer than steel, which would be ligament, and that's what will nick. And I happen to know that this joint is easiest to find if we bend it completely, and then you actually hold the knife parallel to that cannon bone. And it's right in here. It's very weird. And I'll even like ink, you know, I'm pulling on this little hoof, this foot, and just nicking with the tip of my knife where I see the connections are. And then it can come off. Got the hoof off. You're gonna connect this to that. I guess this is our third. It's our third. And the way it works is the same thing. Actually, I'll start on this side. Yeah. Same thing. I'm gonna pull up on this hide, kind of like this, and then get the knife all the way across, And with sawing motions, I'm gonna pull that hide back across my knife. And I can just take this all the way down to the center. And for us, I'll just cut it off there so that you guys can do the next one on this side. Pull it up, get all the way across it, pull that strip back across the knife as you join it with that central strip. So this is kind of the beginning of fisting. So I like to make sure my forearm doesn't have any dirt on it, because we're gonna fist our whole forearm down into the lamb body. And I'm gonna try to show you what this seam looks like. We're gonna pull on the hide anywhere. And we're gonna start by, we're gonna fist down the back. That's what we're getting. We're kind of getting the hide started on the proper seam so that fisting will actually work, which means it'll leave the most fat on the carcass, which is what we want. And to do that, I have to be in the right seam, and that means I pull on the hide, like even right here. See how I got nothing to hold on to. I'm just basically holding on to wool. And so I'm gonna cut with my knife in there, but the key is I'm gonna be against the hide. So once I get it started, see how I'm pulling on it like this? I'm going to cut on the hide. See how far my knife is? As I cut on the hide, the fat and the fascia clings back to the carcass. This is the main thing, and I'll try to demonstrate it many times so we can all get it. But see how, so I'm pulling on it. You see that stretchy business right there? So that's stretchy fascia stuff. Most people go right there, and that makes them messy skinning. We want to go way out here. And see, if I cut outside of it, that fascia goes back to the carcass. So that's, not only are we retaining more, like it's just a better yield, it's also way cleaner and more efficient. We're going to be able to pull this hide off like a wet sock and not knife it all off inch by inch. So here's a great example. See, and I'm really pulling on the hide. As I pull hard on it, see how that fat's coming with the hide? I want that fat back on the carcass. So to do that, I cut way out here. See how it clings back?
It's like magic.
That's what we want. We want magic. And I'm cutting way, see, you can see the strips of my knife on the hide, because I'm cutting on the hide. I'm not cutting the fat. I want the fat to go back to the carcass. If that makes sense. And so this is the weird thing. I'm going to give you all of the tips and tricks. And there might be too many, but to really, the way I think of this is rather than pulling the hide off, I'm pushing the meat off the hide. And that's what I'm actually doing down here with my fist. So it's like, I've got again, my clean fist, my clean forearm, I've got it on the meat, and I'm gonna roll towards the meat like that. So I'm gonna push towards the meat. And I'm just basically keeping the hide nice and taut, but I'm pushing the meat off like that. See how quick that is? And we're leaving all that beautiful fat on the leg of lamb where we want it to be. And then I'm gonna keep doing this. So, and again, it's all rolling like that, pushing meat off of hide, and we'll go all the way down. Like, you know, your arm will be way down in here. And we'll go to the side as far as we can, and we'll go to the middle. And the goal is to be able to go across the spine in the middle. And then we'll come to this side, we'll do the same thing. We'll go across the spine and we'll join those two parts. So that's the idea with fisting. That little tube. And it goes into the pelvis. The pelvis basically creates a bony canal around it. You know, if my hands are the pelvis, my knife is le anus. It goes right through the pelvis. And I can feel that. I can feel, oh, there's bone, that's pelvis. So then I can go right up against pelvis with my knife. I'm keeping the pelvis on one side of my knife, like that. then I can put away my sharp knife and get out my dull fingers, and I can fish in and grab le anus. Feel it, it's kind of stretchy in there. There it is. There's the le anus. And I just dug around in there until I could get under it. Breaking fascia. And I get 2 fingers under it, because then I can grab yonder twine easily and then tie it off. And then I can just cut it to this side of the knot, right? Right there. That way the anus is tied off, it can drop back in there. And now we can just continue skinning this. So if I just go straight down, I'm going to end up hitting the tail. There's the tail. And you can cut right through the tail if you hit a vertebra. I'm sorry, a disc. The disc is what's in between each vertebra. And now we can just keep skinning this the same way. Try to cut on the hide as we go. There, you see now we've totally passed the anal canal, the canal, as it were. All right, so he's got balls because he's a ram. And so for these, to harvest those, we're gonna start the strip, just like we've done all the strips, like this. And pretty soon, you get to the bottom of the scrotum there, and these just come right out. I just cut them on the top where they're connected, and they're real slippery. And they just pop out like that. We're gonna hold on to these, because they are delicious. There we go. And this one will come out the same way. I just kind of grab up top here where it's connected, if you want to do this, Kyle, and cut through that connection and then pull it right out. This is, we've already exposed this, which is the pizzle. And it goes all the way down, and it daylights right here. This is where he pees. But the neat thing about the pizzle is that it is not an open pipe to the bladder. So you can just cut it. You can pull it and cut it, and it's not, you're not going to get pee everywhere. So why don't you just grab this, cut it right there, and that'll be how we deal with that. Little blood will come out maybe. There you go. Nice. Now this is the main strip, and to do the main strip, again, it's going to go all the way down here, all the way to the kill cut. We're going to include the pizzle with it and the scrotum that we already kind of started our strip with, and it's just doing this. And it's little, you know, I'm going back and forth a little bit, and I'm pulling on this quite a bit. And I'm trying not to go too deep. You know, we don't want to go into gut town yet, but it's okay if it's nice and wide like this. That's great, and we'll carry it all the way down to the kill cut. So that's the idea with this strip. And so again, try to rinse off the forearm. It's always the culprit of getting the carcass dirty is dirty forearm. And Wallace, can you come and hold this guy again? Yep. So he doesn't spin around.
Okay.
Thank you. So this is what it looks like. I usually start in here. It's going to be the same thing where we kind of cut on the hide so that all that fascia clings back to the carcass. And the harder I pull on this, the more I pull on it, the easier it will be to see what you need to cut. See how if I'm outside the fascia, it just clings back to the carcass. I'll try to come up here a little bit so that the hide doesn't fold over on the meat. Oops. Alright, so I'm pulling on it, and all that fascia is clinging back to the carcass, and it'll become really apparent that you're in the right seam. When you start, you'll actually see the foul muscles. So see this pale little guy? That's a muscle. And it really wants to come with the hide, as you can see. See how it's coming with the hide? I don't want it to though. I want it to go back to the carcass. So I cut outside of it here. And this is always the part that guys, that is not done properly. So see how if I pull on it, I want this meat to be on the carcass. And so I have to pull on it quite a bit and then watch as I cut outside of it, it clings back to the carcass. That's what we want. Since you guys have already kind of fisted back here, this starts to pull off pretty easily. But see this fell muscle? If we don't leave it intact, it's gone. And then you've taken out like a lot of meat from in between the back leg and the belly. You've seen that. It's like every deer looks like that. But we want this to go back onto the carcass. And usually that's about all you have to expose of it. Doesn't take much. Now it's fistable. Same thing. Push it off of the hide, back onto the carcass. And we'll go all the way down to shoulder, you know, when we do this, that fisting job. So we got to do that on this side. We can fist all the way down as far as we can go. And then on that side, same thing. Both sides, and use my upper body. Kind of hang on it. Yeah, and we'll be able to pull it off the legs and pull it off the neck that way. Takes a good bit of tugging, and just tug straight down. As long as you're tugging down, gravity's helping a little bit. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Nice job. Yeah, and basically you're just splitting the legs of lamb right in half. And you'll feel pelvis there. You feel that? Yep. All right, so then what you do, what I like to do, oh, you already kind of did it. So I put my knife in there, and I'm cutting down hip pelvis, and then you just drop the handle a little bit, just like you did. And see how you're in gut town already.
Okay.
That's gut town.
Yep.
So stick your finger in there and poke through that stuff. And the convenience of your finger is that it is dull. So it's always good to breach gut town with your dull finger. You're not going to poke guts and stuff. Do you see tubes and sacks?
Yep.
Yep. So that's gut town. All right. So the way that I do this with sheeps, there's a couple ways to do it. You can shove the handle of your knife in here. You know, kind of like shoving it way in there like this. So the dull side of your knife is in there, and then you go down. My knives are weird. It would work with a small skinning knife, but I prefer to just take my hand. I shove my whole fist, the whole thing in there like that, thumb and all. And then you take your knife and you put it in the top of your palm, like that. And then I'm going to push my knife down with my left hand, not my right, if that makes sense. I'm pushing it with my left hand. Because if you move them independently and you push it with your right hand, you'll stick yourself in the palm. The palm cuts are terrible. Don't get a palm cut. So I kind of just pinch it there, and it's this hand. This is the one that I'm pushing it down, if that makes sense. Trying to control it with my left hand. And you'll just do that all the way till you basically hit the sternum. In fact, you can feel it. Like there's guts, boom, sternum.
Okay.
Bone. That's about as far as you can go. So go ahead and do that, and then I'll be here to do it. Yeah, and just keep that knife up the top of your palm. Just pull the knife up. There you go. Yeah, and your hand is keeping all those guts back from the knife. Yeah, and you're controlling the knife with the left hand, which is very awkward. That's just oil. That's fine. It's not guts. Perfect. Perfect. Probably here, there. It's like as far as you can go. All right, you can sheathe your knife, and you know that that's just oil, that's just lube, because it's not colorful and smelly. So I just kind of let it loll out here, but support it. There's the little bladder. There's the rectum, right there. That's the end of the line. This is small intestine. And you can see that everything is only connected to the spine. Nothing's connected to the side walls, right? So if you go up here, Kyle, and get your whole, try to, with your hands, you're gonna try to get a fist all the way around that bladder and the rectum. Yes, exactly. You're kind of breaking that mesentery, the fascia, to get a grip on it, and then pull down. You should find the end of the rectum. Nice. Perfect. And then, you know, I like to just keep that stuff outside the carcass. That's good. That's good. And then, you know, like even then though, it doesn't matter that much because the pee-pee in the bladder is sterile. So you don't really, if you puncture the bladder, don't even worry about it. It doesn't even have a smell at this point. It's totally sterile, so it's not a big deal. All right, so then you can see everything is connected to the spine by stuff like this. This is just fascia, clingy connective tissue. And so that's what I break. And to break it, I bridge across that clingy fascia stuff and push down. And just between gravity and pushing down on that, everything will come free. There's more small intestines, so you can go right here. Those are kidneys. Yeah, we'll take those too. Take them all. Yeah. Leaf fat, or suet, I should say. Yep, push down right close to the spine. And then you should see this, the liver on one side, right? Yep. You can get under it and try to push it towards the knee. There's a spleen. I would just all of this come up and out. There we go. And now everything is just holding on by the single solitary esophagus. Get it? Not yet. I like to leave it hanging there. If you just cut the esophagus, you might get a burp from here, and you can spray some goodies or not so goodies. We've got the liver hanging here, so while it's hanging, I like to just cut it off. And it has a nice looking liver. It's got this bladder on it right here. This is the gallbladder, and it's got bile in it. Bile is edible. It is also super gross. So I get rid of it. And I just pinch it up here on, there's the sac, the gallbladder, and then there's the bile duct up here. And it's kind of a pinch slash cut it off. There we go. And I can pull it off. Usually it goes into the bile spot. And then in case I ever spill anything, they're encased in fat, which is beautiful. This is the purest fat on the sheep that is usually rendered down for soap making because it is not sheepy. But we'll collect these and we'll break them out into a pie tomorrow. And then you have enough caul fat here to harvest Ramsey. A little bit. So there is also this fun thing. This is caul fat, and this is a veil of fat that's on everything. It's on deer, it's on pig, cow, and it is a lace made of fat. It's very beautiful. There we go, there it is. And it's very delicate, so I like to cut it off rather than rip it off. My goal is to try to leave it whole. And it's pretty small on lambs, but it's basically a membrane made of fat. It's actually folded over on itself a couple times. And so anything that you can imagine that would taste better being wrapped in this and then baked in an oven is what this is for. So it bastes things from the outside. It's very, very good. And it's pretty mild. This one's like, there we go. This one. Brain is the diaphragm, and the muscles on the side right there, that's the skirt steak. That's the skirt steak.
On the inside?
Yeah, on the inside. Yep, it's part of the diaphragm.
Been getting tossed for years.
Yep.
On those deer and stuff.
Yep, it's very tasty. So I just cut right through the diaphragm. Weird. Right next to the esophagus. And basically, we just need to go down. We don't have any more sacs or tubes we have to be sensitive about. We just need to go in and rip up the trachea, pull it up and out. And it's way down here at the bottomus. And basically, you go down to where your hand has no more room, and you try to wrap your whole fist around the trachea and pull it up and out. And the larynx will usually come with it.
You don't cut that. You just
Yeah, pull it out.
all the way from the.
Yeah. And as you do that, you'll be able to grab the heart. And the lungs will kind of come with it. That's really all that's left in there. And I should have said it's quite a tug. You're like pulling up the entire weight of the carcass.
Yeah.
It's tight. It's a tight hole you're pulling it through.
Oh.
And if it breaks, it's not a big deal.
You can.
Beauty. Oh, you got it. Perfect. And then you can see we got lungs sitting there. I just try to grab the
Toast.
heart.
You can turn it on. It's not.
Right
No, it's
there.
like-
There's the heart.
I wish we.
And then you just
not
push
lost
down on the
it.
whole thing, and it'll rip off into the bin. There it is.
Maybe.
Beautiful. And if you just hug it to your body, it's much easier to walk around with. You could shoulder them, but they're still so fresh that they might flop around a little bit. But we're going to take them all the way to that big garage.